Marita, good to be with you. So what are we talking about today?
Ooh, this is a caliente, spicy one, as they say. Hot, spicy, and it is surrender. And yeah, there we go. Let's surrender to the moment right now as we surrender to saying surrender.
So let's take a few hours for this one.
But we're on a time schedule. No. So I just want to open this up because people think that surrender is passive, a passive act. And I think it's one of the most times in life when you are alive, when you surrender, is so active because you have to be so present, right, to everything, right, that you are surrendering to. It is the time when you are on and aware, you know, and it's not like, oh, you won. This is not about winning or losing. This life is not a competition. That's a whole nother one we'll have to do. But it's allowing yourself, as I tell my students, I pray that you find the day that you come to the end of yourself and the beginning of interdependence and relationship where you can be held by Mother Earth. And that's where I think that point is a new trajectory in your life. When you cross the bridge from Western modalities of competition, of dominance, of discipleship, right? Because surrendering doesn't mean discipleship. It means I am aware that I do not know, I need help, and there are other beings out there that are doing things better or walking in a different way that could help me. So surrender for me is like, yes, please. I want to do that because I need help, right? Living is hard. Being a human is challenging. And so surrendering to me means I have to meet all of myself, that which I deem good, which I deem bad, my pluses, my minuses, be so aware of that. And so when I go to surrender, what I'm actually asking the universe is, here I am. Will you co-create with me? And I think a lot of people don't want to surrender because, everyone's like, oh, surrender to love. Well, what does that mean? That love is going to dominate you, or that now you can't prove that you're good enough. And I think that's, so much is packed into these words that we're saying. There's so many expectations. So I think it's important for people when they're surrendering to the word surrender to know, what does this word mean to you? What are all the things that it boils up in your body and in your blood, so you can be present to it, so you can be aware from it? Because so many people do not live in the moment or are aware, and yet give away their freedom. Giving away your freedom is not surrendering. Surrendering is of my own free will and choice. I have made a decision, right? That's what I have been taught coming from indigenous practices. I'm not saying it's easy. It is a lifelong practice for me to surrender. And how about you, Angel?
Yeah, for me, the same teachings of pure presence. For me, it's like being in the essence of presence. So it's very active. It's not passive.
Yep.
I'm not a jellyfish dying on the beach, just like surrendering to the currencies. No, I'm alive and I'm fully present to this moment. There is no running away from it, which very often people surrender is that, right? It's just, I don't care, whatever, God do whatever you want. So we're not holding any responsibility. And there is no attempt of control, which is the other aspect of it. I'm too engaged in the process and I'm not surrendering. I'm not allowing spirit to move anything there. So I'm not one side or the other. It's like, okay, I have no physical presence and God can do whatever they want with me, or the spirits, or I can do everything and whatever I do will happen, right? It's this in-between stage where we are fully present and awake. We're fully aware of what's going on and we have a still mind in it. We're not running away. We're not controlling. We're not judging. We're not trying to change it, right? If I don't judge, usually I don't try to change it. So can I give myself that full presence? And it's very difficult indeed, because we get activated and something difficult happen and say, why do you surrender with that? Because fear come up and all that come up. Well, it's presence with the fear. And then it's present maybe with the rage. And then maybe it's presence with the grief, but the surrender asks us to kind of being with it and at the same time observe it, which is very difficult dance, because very often we're just too in it. We can't really observe it, or we too detach and we renounce our sovereignty in some ways. So, our breath is in constant surrender. Something is beating, which surrendering to that breath to this beating heart, right? So there is something that carry will, that carry wisdom, that carries information, that carries connection. And when I can tune into that, like being, let's say, sitting on the land outside and not thinking of the time I have to sit in, not having something to do, and just trying to be really even more present, meaning to observe, to feel that this is when things open, light shift, we see things differently, right? I'm surrendering to the present moment, right? Very often, like we said, right, we think of surrendering, okay, whatever happened will happen. But that's not really surrendering to me, because very often in that there is, there's already defeat, or there is like detachment, and surrender is presence, it's connection. Like, it can be detachment, that can be like whatever. No, it's like what is, not whatever. So there is a very different taste to it. I think because it's such a somatic experience and beyond the mind experience, it's also hard to really describe it.
Yeah.
Until you have experienced it. Maybe you had moment in your ceremonies when you experience that, or you're holding a newborn, or you're watching a magnificent sunset, and for a moment the world fade. You're just so present. You're surrendering to that moment, right?
Yeah. I love all of that beautiful imagery. It paints surrender as a beautiful thing, but you said something really powerful, and it's accountability, right? A lot of people think surrender is checking out. I'm giving my higher power over to someone else. Now I don't have to worry about my life because, I bought in. You told me I'm going to be a good person if I do this, and I give you, that power. And it's, in indigenous ways and teachings, we have, the reason why we witness is because we don't try to engage and change people's minds, right? We allow them their process. And the Western world doesn't like that. They like people to get in on their process, right? To make them feel better, because they don't want to be held accountable. I was watching something the other day and it was someone who was channeling, right? He was a channel for a long time. And he said, the one thing that I've learned in the 20 plus years that I've been channeling this thing is that, especially for healers and teachers, is that a student or someone might present themselves, and all you are supposed to do as a teacher, right, as a healer, is to do your best, to engage, to give what you can within your boundaries and settings, do in a good way, and to release it. Because sometimes that person that came just to reject what you're teaching because they don't want it. They want to blame someone later on. And I think, when we're talking about surrender, in indigenous ways, is responsibility. Be responsible in how you're engaging. And so when you surrender, it's accepting your responsibility of who you are on this planet, contributing to that moment of awe. Not in denial of it. Everyone, I don't take a lot of pictures. I see everyone taking pictures of sunsets, and I don't. I just try to sit there, me and my cat, just watch the sunset. And my wife hates it because she's like, then you ask me for my pictures. why don't you do it? I said, because I would just want to be here. I want it in my body. I don't want to get distracted. I don't want to be told that my son was this thing. I don't need to show someone that I was there to know that I was there. And so I think when we talk about surrender, it really can allow us the gift, as you said, of the present moment, of stepping into awe, to something beyond, right? Not because we're giving up, but where we're saying, I am meeting the end of me and the beginning of you. And that interaction is divine.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the movie Don't Look Up, and
Mm,
people see it, and it's a kind of end of the world movie. There's a meteorite, a big thing coming to the Earth, and the Earth is going to be hit by it, and life is
yeah.
going to be reset. And it follows an interesting pattern, very much like a ceremony. So first there is fear, and then there's trying to control and fix it, and then there is grief. So there's many process in the movie until the last scene at the end, where everybody's just sitting at a table having a really good dinner. We're minutes before the impact, and this is the one moment where community is happening again.
Yeah.
People have completely surrendered to the outcome, and they're having such a loving connection. They are holding hands, they are looking at each other's eyes, they are drinking, they are
Hmm.
eating, and they have these beautiful moments of communion.
Mm, hmm.
And they're like, okay, beyond our control. But
Yeah.
they're very present, they're very engaged, and it's so loving and it's so community oriented. So very
Right.
often when I think as surrender of that, it doesn't mean, nothing bad happen, or
Mm,
that we just have to let the pain, and just dwell on it. It's like, okay, what is it in that moment that I can be present
yeah.
with? Can I find beauty in that moment? Is there relations and connection I can be with, instead of,
Hmm.
always, kind of taking the ego view, not being so centered on something. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, what is happening right now? And maybe you have pain right now and you can surrender to it. Grandmother Strickrow one day say, just take your pain, put in a bundle of tobacco, give it to the earth,
Hmm.
surrender it to the earth.
Yeah.
So calling our allies, to also intercede for us, to help us surrender, not
Hmm.
carry everything on our own because we think we are separated. We think we are not in connection, right? So there are so many, things we can weave in that.
Yeah. And I think you said something beautiful there is like, again, as a human, we've been taught surrender means certain things, but trees surrender, right? Trees leave, they're, in fall, they let the leaves go, right? Animals surrender, right? Nature surrenders all the time, every day. The sun surrenders, every day, just like it rises. So I hope today you are inspired to step into a way of surrendering and being nurtured by Earth, all her creatures who surrender into moments of awe.
Mm. Blessing, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.